I'm Royce F. Robinson. I'm with my brother Wendell Sims. We are doing CBT skills practice. I will be the counselor, and brother Wendell will be the counselee. All right. Good afternoon, brother Wendell. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing fairly well.
Good. I'd like to invite you back to the office with me. That's where we're going to be spending most of our time, and you're welcome to sit by the couch or by the window. It doesn't matter. Wherever you're comfortable. Can I get you anything to drink?
No, sir. No, thank you. I brought my own Gatorade here. Appreciate it.
How was your drive in, sir?
Drive in was nice. Weather's nice. The traffic is just moving smoothly. No interference or interruptions we're getting here. So I appreciate that. Appreciate you asking.
Good. Glad to hear it. Well, first of all, I want to let you know our sessions today will be recorded. They'll be recorded for the purposes of me becoming a better counselor so that I can look back and see how I can improve on some things. Also, these recordings are going to just be for myself unless there are some other things that may come up. So such as if I get subpoenaed, my records get subpoenaed or anything like that, I do have to disclose these sessions and the recordings to them. If my supervisor comes in and wants to audit my files, check and see how I'm doing, they can get audited, they can get reviewed for that purpose. If you happen to say anything that's about hurting yourself or hurting someone else, then I do have to highlight, I have to kind of raise awareness of that and report that to officials or my supervisor and things like that. Other than that, these sessions are pretty much between you and I. All right. Any questions with any of that? You okay with that?
I'm good with that. Appreciate it.
All right. There's going to be a consent form that I want you to fill out for that, and just to say that you've been notified of that. We're going to be, during our time together today, we're going to be doing what we call CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, CBT therapy. And what that is, cognitive is mental. That's what you think about. B is for behavior. That's how you act. And what we believe in CBT therapy is that based off of what you think, how you think, it determines your feelings and your behavior, about that. So if we can change how you think about a thing or a topic, a subject, an event, if we can change how you think about it, then we can change basically how you feel and behave with that particular thought and event. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Makes a lot of sense.
Any questions with any of that thus far?
I think I got it so far.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good. Tell me why we're here today. How we're going to spend our time together. What's your goal?
Well, I lately I have not been feeling like a good friend. Like I'm not feeling I'm in the same place with my best friend. Used to be, and I say used to be because the relationship have changed. What happened? We go way back. We go back like, 20 years or more. And I served as an usher in his wedding. He served as best man in mine. And when my dad passed, I called him to preside over the service. He was very supportive. He's, dropped everything and just came and presided over the homegoing service for my dad. But then his mom passed.
Yeah.
His mother passed. And at that time, he called me and asked me to serve as presiding over his mother's homegoing service. And I couldn't do it or didn't do it because it was a time when my wife had been recently released from a procedure in the hospital. And she had a commitment to do something, a project she was working on at the church that had been pre-scheduled, that nobody else could do what she did in this project. She was the lead person on the project. And so her having recently come out of a pretty serious hospitalization, I felt she didn't need to go down to the church by herself. to that, and I had to be there to support. So anyway, I chose to uh, support my wife and not support him. So I couldn't even go to the homegoing at the time that it was. And so I missed the homegoing. I didn't serve as presiding minister for him, which he had done for me in the past. And from then on, it seems like the relationship, to me, the relationship changed. I mean, he stopped communicating as often, and I I still battle, and this has been, it's been some time, and I still battle with these feelings of guilt that I let him down, and I ruined a real close friendship that was there. Now we're very cordial and still friendly, but it just seems like the relationship is not where it was. My battle or struggle, if not an actual struggle, or even if it's just mental, is, do I put in work to try to get the relationship back to where it was, or just be satisfied with what we do have?
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Listen, first and foremost, I want to offer condolences for the loss of your father. I don't know when that happened. Was that something recent?
It's been a little while.
Okay. Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I
I
covered.
appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how is your wife doing from her surgery during that time that this happened?
She's doing well. She's fully recovered and
Good.
everything's well now. Thank
Okay.
you.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. So as I understand it, uh, what the things that we're dealing with is you don't feel like you've been a good friend to somebody who showed themselves friendly to be a good friend to you during a crucial time in your life at the death of your father, and you don't feel like you reciprocated that when they needed you to be there for them about their mom, because your wife had just gone through a surgery, but there was something she had to do at church nobody else could do, and you had to support her. You chose to support your wife during that time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I guess, so if you was to say, if we was to establish our goal, it would be to, would it be to reestablish this friendship at the level that it was, or would it be to reposition yourself to be that friend that you feel like he was to you? I want to make sure I know what our goal is.
That's kind of part of why I'm here, because I don't know if it's the best idea or if it's even a realistic goal to say, let's try to get the friendship back to where it was.
Okay. All right. So here,
Okay.
let's do this. Let's look at some of your thoughts and some of the things that you've said that got us here. Okay. That got us here. You
All right.
mentioned, you said, I chose to support my wife and not support him. And that was interesting language that you use. I chose to support her and not him. I immediately thought that it was two things happening at one time, yes?
Yes.
And they were happening simultaneously, and two events that was going to be happening simultaneously, yes?
Yes.
And that was one individual, you, that wanted to be at both places. Is that fair to say?
Yes. It's very fair to say.
Was it possible for you to be at both places at the same time, simultaneously?
No, sir. They were on two different parts of the state. I mean, very many miles apart.
So when you say I chose to be at one than the other, could you have even chosen to be at both? Could you have chosen?
No, sir. No, sir, absolutely not.
Okay. Well,
Did I make the right choice? Because in retrospect, I could, my thing was that my wife gets support and assistance because I didn't want her to, uh, first of all, I felt like she was doing too much too soon from the time of being released from the hospital.
okay.
But it was a calendar event, and we had talked about that, and she was like, "No, I'm going. I could do it. I just need you to drive." You know, she didn't want to. She didn't feel comfortable enough driving to the event. She said, "I'm going to be seated once I get there,"
Sure.
and so I had to be there, like to carry things in for her, carry things out,
Yeah.
to do the driving and all that. But in retrospect, maybe I could have gotten another relative to do the driving for her, and I could have been there to support him. And I'm saying, why did I feel guilty that why didn't I think of that then?
Okay.
My priority was to be there for your wife, because she always gonna come first. That's just not even a question. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I could have been there for her in a different way by getting um, you know, another close relative to drive her there and to serve in terms of carrying the things in and out.
Okay.
If I had thought it through.
Okay. But and I appreciate you saying that. I think that in itself is admirable of you to at least come to the conclusion that, hey, you know what, in retrospect, I could have done something different. I could have gotten somebody else. So I want to commend you at least for owning that, because that's a form of what I believe is humility and an admission of, hey, you know what, man, maybe I could have done something different. So I want to commend you for that. Um, and then you did talk about how she's number one and being your wife. I wanted to make sure that we I wanted to challenge you on your thoughts of, choosing to do one thing over the other and not being able to be in one place. She just wasn't able to be in two places at one time. Uh,
Right.
Not humanly possible to be in two
This is true.
at one time.
Mhm.
And so just putting that thought in a different place, and it not being just about a choice, it's about an ability. I wasn't able to do both at the same time.
Right.
And I don't think you had any control over the death of his mom or the affliction of your wife. So you couldn't control either one of those. So
Right. Right.
like both of those things was out of your control.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
True.
You did mention that you feel guilty, that you let him down. You mentioned that you're cordial, you're friendly. Um, have you talked to him? Have you told him how you feel about the situation?
I mentioned to him that shortly, like after, I don't know what proximity of time it was from the time that his mother actually was buried till the time that we met up again I think we ran into each other at the gym to work out at the same gym. And I mentioned to him then, I said, I really feel bad about missing your mom's homegoing and not being there for you in that capacity. And I think his response was so short. I don't even remember fully what he responded,
Okay.
but it was something like, "Man, don't worry about that." But I didn't feel like it was genuine.
Okay. Okay.
I felt like he said that for me not to even talk about it, but there was something deep within him. And now this is all my speculation, but I feel like there was something that really did bother him. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, sure.
But his saying, "Man, don't worry about it," was like, that's the type of person he is. Because I'm similar to, I mean, is there really anything that you can do about it now? You know, she's already gone, she's already buried. I had to get somebody else to preside over it. You know, what is our point?
Right, right.
So him telling me, don't worry about it, which I'm not quoting directly because I'm not sure that's the words he used, but something to that effect was like brushing me off and saying, you know, go on to a different topic because we don't even want to talk about that.
Let me backtrack just a little bit because I want to make sure we stay on course with the goal. I asked you earlier about a goal, and I asked you, was it to reestablish your friendship? You said, I don't even know if it's possible. All right. So from that, I take for us to find out if it's possible for us to reestablish the friendship. I asked, had you talked to him about it? You said, yeah, I mentioned to him that I was sorry that I missed it. But have you talked to him about the fact that you feel like your friendship is no longer the same? Have you actually told him, hey, listen, I don't know if, okay, so you're saying no?
I have not, we have not had that conversation.
Ah,
We have not, we have not. And so much time has passed that I don't really want to have that conversation.
okay. All right.
I don't really want to. It's a lot of time, a long time has passed since this has happened.
Okay. So let me do this. This might sound a little challenging, a little, maybe even a little controversial. I don't know. You say, I don't know if I want to have that conversation. If that conversation is the road to reestablishing or finding out if we can reestablish our friendship, but I don't know if I want to have that conversation, then we got to go and ask ourselves, are we saying that we don't know if we want the friendship? Do we want to reestablish the friendship or not?
Well, we are all still friends. We may never be best friends again.
Do we want to be best friends again?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Do we like?
Maybe you know, maybe that season is over with. You know, it's not the only friend I have. I mean, I have. He's not the only friend that I have. I do have other friends. I
Let me ask,
just don't. Here's the dilemma with that. With okay, if we sticking with that, trying to get back to where we were in terms of the closeness that we were in terms of best friends. Because I don't feel like he was genuine when I came to him that time and said what I said about, you know, I really regret about not being there to support and serving as presiding minister at your mom's home going, you know, I was very apologetic and, you know, I'm pouring out my heart to you. I'm not doing it in a long conversation, but to say, man, don't worry about that. And then keep it moving when really, no, you were bothered by that. You know, I was looking for truth and honesty to say, yeah, that really did bother me, but I'm okay now. I understand now. Something, you know, I think that conversation should have been a little lengthier than it was. So based on that, I'm thinking if I go back now and it's been, you know, a couple of years to say, oh man, our relationship is not where it was, and do we try to get back to that, or do we just accept the fact that it is what it is now?
okay. You said you don't feel like he was genuine when you came and apologized,
At
and
that moment, right?
at that moment, you don't feel like he was genuine. You also mentioned earlier when I was asking you about could you have been at two places at the same time, you said, you know, I guess now looking back at it, I could have had somebody else take my wife, and that way it would have freed you up to be there. Do you remember saying that?
Right. Yes.
And that was something you just arrived at today
Right.
after all this time.
Yes, sir.
So at that particular time that you came to him and poured out your heart, was genuine about your apology, and all he gave you at that time was, ah, man, don't worry about it. What if today he even thinks differently and thinks, I probably should have told Wendell how I really felt? Are you going to give him the same allowance that you gave yourself?
Oh man. I should. He deserves that much. I mean, I should. I will. I will. Yeah.
I mean, that's just something to
Oh,
consider.
I should have that conversation then, right? Is that
If
what you said?
if we are interested in reestablishing or seeing if we can reestablish the friendship, if we're not happy with where things are, you started off by saying, I asked what brought you. You said, I don't know if I'm a good friend or not. And
Yeah.
so if we're trying to at least explore the idea of maybe, or the possibility of whether or not we can be a good friend or reestablish a friendship, then we got to start with the conversation.
You do. You're
Yeah,
right. So I'll contact them and see if we can get that conversation going. Maybe we go out to lunch or something.
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And if nothing more, just let him know how much you, how it bothers you that your friendship has changed and it's not the same. And you know, not being there for him for his father or for his mom's services as he was there for you for your father's may have been the start of this. And if we can, go back and make amends for that and just talk about how you even see things differently today that you could have possibly done different, and maybe some of the regrets that you have of not being able to see that back then and share
Yeah.
that, um, and understanding the fact that, hey, maybe at the time that you apologized, maybe he wasn't at a place where he really felt like he could share with you his true feelings about it, and maybe he's rethought it since, and maybe the opportunity is just waiting on somebody to say something about this friendship.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm gonna try that.
Okay,
I'll initiate the I'll reach out.
sure. Well,
Okay,
listen,
I'll reach out.
I wish you well at it. I hope that gets you to a place where you can at least explore the option or the opportunities of reestablishing that friendship, um, so that you can be a friend to him like you choose, like you want to be. It sounds like you want to be, and it sounds like you regret that you couldn't be at the time.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
it's painful.
good deal.
Now, I mean, just now, I think having experienced, doing ministry and doing more funerals than a few, I have a different perspective or a more mature perspective or a more experienced perspective on what people go through during the time of a loss.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And so, yeah,
Amen.
I appreciate the help, man. It's what we call tight but right.
Amen. Well, sometimes we got to be challenged a little bit. We got to be confronted with a few things and
Yes, sir.
get us back on track. But listen, hopefully this was helpful to you. And in the future, if there's anything we can do for you, by all means, please give us a call. My assistant out front will get you one of our cards. And if there's anything we can do for you in the future, please give us a call.
All right, will do.
All right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.